talk about these reserves. China's buying all the gold they can, and they can find, and the Western central banks and governments are selling. And do you think this is a wise move for the Western world? You've given away so much gold.
I don't really, but it's somewhat beyond their control, I think, at the moment. And I think it reflects a natural shift in economic power from the West, not completely to the East, but some way towards the East. China is buying gold for extremely good economic reasons. Western central banks, they were selling in the 1990s. They've tended to stop that, but they're certainly not buyers. So relatively speaking, their stock is declining as a proportion of the total. And a lot of this relates to what or which currencies do you expect to be the world's reserve currencies and why in future. I think there is a growing appreciation that probably the Renmindi is going to be amongst the world's reserve currencies at some point in the future. And the thing that has, if you like, been a characteristic of all of the world's reserve currencies in history, certainly since sterling went on the gold standard in the early 18th century, has been that they have a large proportion of backing by gold. And of course, in the gold standard in 1720, whenever the Bank of England went on to the gold standard, there was 100% backing, and that really lasted certainly all the way through to the 1930s. And then really, if you look at why did the dollar pick up as the world's reserve currency in 1945, it was because the United States had by far the largest reserves of gold in the world, so it made sense for the US dollar to be the world's reserve currency. So do you need 100% backing now? No, you probably don't, but would the world expect you to have a higher than average percentage holding of gold as part of your reserves? Yes, it would, and so I think that's part of the reason that China is buying. The other part, of course, is because certainly at the short end, they're probably receiving negative real interest rates on their holdings of treasuries. So actually against that, gold, actually, which holds its value as a real asset, looks like quite a good investment.
Is that why Russia's buying gold as well then, do you think? A similar reason?
Russia will have dollar reserves because it is a large oil producer, and for the same sorts of reasons, depending on what real return you can get on your dollar, it makes sense for the Russians to also diversify some of their dollar reserves into gold. I suspect in the case of Russia there is a little bit of geopolitical niggle as well. I sense certainly from reading the papers, that there is a certain irritation in the Russian government of the status that the dollar does have, and that if there was a sense that they could reduce that influence to some extent, then they might not mind saying that. But that is purely my speculation. Just reading the runes, I think there's a slight anti-dollar feeling in the Russian government.